Professional football in America is a special game, a unique game. Played nowhere else on earth, it is a rare game. The men who play it make it so.
Hey, baby, let's go out there like a bunch of crazy dogs and have some fun.
Coming now, buddy. We on our horse all day long. Let's just kick that butt all day long. Pick it up. Don't stop. Pick it up. Let's go.
Get after the ball. Get to somebody.
All right, welcome to Week 12 of This Week in Fantasy Football. I'm Mike Cardano, along with Fantasy Sports Writing Association Hall of Famer Scott Engel. Scotty, how are you today?
Doing good. It's the last of the bye weeks.
And just about playoff time as well. How are you sitting playoff-wise?
I'm going to make the playoffs, it looks like, in 6 of my 7 leagues. In one of my leagues, I have a showdown with the third-place team. We got a 3-team race, and we're fighting for 3 teams fighting for 2 first-round buys. If I win this week, I clinch a bye.
Who are you fighting with, Ronas?
What? No, there's a personal league that I've had for years with a bunch of friends.
Okay. All right, this week we got buys with Buffalo, Cincinnati, Philadelphia, and Scotty's the Seattle team here.
Yep.
They're at home resting up.
Yep. Big game next week with New Orleans Saints for the number 1 seed in the NFC on Monday Night Football.
Does New Orleans have a tiebreaker on that if they win it? No.
Whoever wins the game would have the tiebreaker because head to head.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank goodness I've done well enough so far that this week's not going to matter because, as you know, I made a colossal mistake yesterday.
Yet another one.
Yeah, well,
yes.
Going out on a limb and recommending to my constituents that they play both stack Roddy White and Matt Ryan in the same game.
Beautiful.
Didn't work
2-8 team, use 2 guys and go for the connection. I rarely recommend the connection in fantasy football like it's the Denver Broncos because as you learn, if a team scores 13 points and you got 2 guys from the same offense, you're screwed.
I was almost a hero. I was this close.
No, you weren't. You weren't anywhere close.
Well, anyway, I issued a mea culpa this morning, so why don't we take a look? All right, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about what happened Thursday night because really there's no way for me to run from it. So those of you who watch me here every day know that I made a bold call in last night's game, or stupid, depending on how you look at it. What I suggested was playing both Matt Ryan and Roddy White if you had them. Now look, the first thing is that it's easy to kill me today after the fact, but had I gotten it right, I'd have been sitting pretty. What we do here is not easy. We're on radio, TV, and print, on video, giving you advice day after day and answering questions, literally hundreds of questions per day. So when I get one wrong, if you want to party all over my face, whatever blows your skirt up. Now, no one feels worse than I do today, particularly for the people who went with me. Those of you tweeting me, I know you were wrong, you didn't have skin in the game, so I really don't want to hear from you. Now, I woke up this morning and my breakfast tasted like crap. The 4th graders in the school carpool wouldn't talk to me. The goldfish spit his food back at me, and the neighbor's dog nearly took a chunk out of my gluteus maximus. No one who took my advice is happy. I get it. All right? I get it. Now, in my defense, if I told you that Matt Ryan was going to be 30 of 39 with no interceptions, you would have said, I'll take that in a heartbeat, expecting that the yardage and the touchdowns to come along with it would be awesome. 292 yards and no touchdowns didn't make me happy. And the fact that this chicken shit quarterback, can I say chicken shit? This is not network TV, right? This chicken shit quarterback had a chance for a rushing touchdown just before the half with 1 second-level defender to beat and chose to slide on his ass and take the field goal tells me that he's just a spineless jellyfish, and I would have never put any faith in him had I known he was going to play like that and pack it in. Matty Ice? He should be Matty Soft Ice, like soft ice cream. And can you throw the ball to Roddy White? Throw him the damn ball. NFL.com runs an article yesterday stating that despite his subpar injury-ridden season, the Falcons are going to sign White to a long-term Larry Fitzgerald-type extension because they believe in him. Didn't anyone tell Ryan? Matty, you didn't watch yesterday's segment? Throw Roddy White the damn ball. Ryan threw 39 passes and only 2 in White's direction. He caught them both. He had 2 catches for 24 yards. Throw him the damn ball. What is Harry Douglas Steve Largent now? And what's with all the Darius Johnson love all of a sudden? You get down in the red zone, you throw it to Johnson, who's 175 pounds soaking wet, and the defender looks at him the wrong way and he craps his pants and fumbles. Throw the ball to Roddy White. Then on 3rd down in the big spot, you throw to Johnson again and he drops the friggin' ball. You didn't get the memo? Throw it to Roddy White. Now, my sincere apologies to those of you who followed my advice and now have started off your week 12 in a hole. I truly gave it my best effort, and I thought I was giving you a leg up that not many others would have had. I've been doing extremely well this year, and I'll be in the playoffs in all 4 of my leagues with only 9 losses total between the 4 of them. So I get it right way more often than I get it wrong. I'll do better next time, Mom, I promise. Alright, so what do you think? I owned up to it. It didn't work out.
It didn't. You'll learn a lesson. You probably won't do that again.
He was 30 for 39. You would have thought that that would have worked out well. But,
yeah, but of the 30 passes, only 2 went to Roddy White. You can't rely on a connection.
How does that happen?
You need touchdowns.
How does that happen?
What? They stole in the red zone.
Yeah, but how does he only throw it to him 2 times? Throw him the ball.
He's not open.
Throw him the ball. All right, let's.
You think he wanted to throw to Darius
I don't know
Johnson?
what he wanted to do.
He throws to who's open. He's a veteran quarterback.
Johnson fumbling the ball all over the place and dropping the ball on 3rd down. And I took the over, too, to boot. I had a miserable evening last night. So, anyway. All right, let's get to the celebrity questions. Our first celebrity question is from Apollo Anton Ono. Do you know who that is?
Yes, I do.
You know who it is? Because how you know? Because I told you just before the show who it was. You had no idea who he was.
Now I know who he is.
All right, well, everybody else knows
every
who he
day.
is. All right. Apollo's got a question for you. He wants to know, let's see, what does he want to know? He says, I saw where it might be quite windy at MetLife Stadium on Sunday. He's looking at the weather reports. Should I sit Tony Romo? My replacement would be RG3.
I doubt you should do this, and it's kind of hard to predict it like a few days ahead of time.
It's early to be doing
because the weatherman could be wrong, as we saw last week with the Cleveland game.
Isn't it
they said it was going to be a major storm, and it really wasn't. These veteran quarterbacks know how to play in the conditions. Tony Romo has played so much at Giant Stadium, the Meadowlands, MetLife throughout his career. The only reason that I would be concerned about Romo is if we come to game day and then we're talking about major super wind gusts. Then maybe you have to sit him. I think there's something you have to watch for in game day.
Well, they had a tornado in Chicago. They halted the game, wait till it got nice out, and then they come out and play.
Yeah, but I don't know if this is going to merit a stoppage necessarily. The weather's kind of unique. That's a unique situation.
It would have to be very, very drastic.
When have you seen a game like that, the one Chicago one you're going to talk about? It's legitimate to be concerned with weather, but I think you're going to really have to wait to game day, and I think it's going to have to be some drastic weather in order to take Romo out of the lineup.
See what the weather's going to be here. You know I like to do the weather here all the time.
Now it's relevant, not 5 weeks ago.
Slight chance of snow, and they are expecting winds of close to
35
mile an hour.
Snow is not really something you concern yourself about. I think people overrate that. I've talked to guys who played professional football, and actually it's an advantage for the offense because the defense can't gain their footing.
Right. Well, 35 mile an hour winds, they can play in that.
If it was more than that, I'd be worried about Romo.
Okay. Well, if he has to make a call right now,
I'd still start Tony.
Start him. Okay. Yeah. That's it. Okay. All right. Next question up from this guy, Hall of Famer Warren Moon.
Of course, I know Warren Moon.
Seahawks broadcaster
Warren Moon.
Edmonton Eskimo. A couple of Grey Cups he's got. A couple of.
There was nothing I liked during the latter part of Warren Moon's career when he threw touchdown passes to Joey Galloway. I watch Warren Moon on Root Sports every week with Seahawks All Access, Seahawks Press Pass. He's Seahawks broadcaster now.
Now he's in the Hall of Fame, but I wonder what the NFL numbers he would have put up in his career if he didn't have to go to the CFL first. Because he was blackballed out of the NFL. It was a racist thing. That's why he had to go there.
He made the Pro Bowl with the Seahawks at age 40.
Yeah. He was. I remember him best, I think, in the NFL, probably with the Houston Oilers.
I remember, well, of course, with the Houston Oilers, with Haywood Jeffries, and all those guys.
Wasn't he the quarterback when Frank Reich came back on him, though, in Buffalo?
Yeah, but he had 3 great receivers. He had Haywood Jeffries, Curtis Duncan, and Ernest Givens. Yeah. And then he went on to Minnesota, where he had some tremendous years with Chris Carter, and then Seattle, where he was just... Towards the end of his career, I always wanted Warren Moon to be a Seahawk, and then he finished it out with Kansas City. You know what Dolman told me, Chris Dolman? What? He told me that he was throwing the ball once, and he tackled him right after the throw, and it was an interception. And Warren Moon was going to get up and go try to tackle the guy, and he just put his hand on him. He says, "You stay down, and then I won't have to hit you."
He just stayed down. I thought that was great. All right, let's get on to Warren's question here. Warren wants to know who the better play in a PPR league this week is: Jamal Charles or Matt Forte, or now check this out. He's got a heck of a roster here. Or should he just sit Adrian Peterson with his groin issue and play them both? He's got all three of those guys.
He must be playing in a salary cap sort of game.
I don't know, but what do you think?
Just rank those top three running backs. I mean, Jamal Charles is the number one running back in fantasy football to me. I don't think you can bench him. Important game for them against San Diego. I think he's going to carve that defense up, and they're going to bounce back from that loss last week. Look, Forte goes against a bad Rams run defense. They're both good plays, but put me to a wall. I'm still picking Jamal Charles, and I'll take both of them over Adrian Peterson, who's hard to bench in most leagues. This has to be a salary cap format because there's nobody that I know in the entire world
He's got a two-team
that
league.
has Jamal Charles, Matt Forte, and Adrian Peterson.
He's a Hall of Famer. He probably gets.
That's got to be a one-team league.
Pick first in every round.
You know what? That's going to be a two-team league between him and Seahawks broadcast Angie Mentick.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But so you're concerned about Peterson this week?
Compared to those other two, I'm not that concerned, but I'll take
Oh,
those
really?
other two over him. No.
A lot of people
The
are very
groin
concerned.
is a minor concern. He said he's going to play, but I'll still take those other two over him.
Okay. All right, Warren. Nice roster, by the way. Anyway,
Yeah.
at least, I don't know. Maybe you got no receivers, but all right. Let's move on to Randy Jackson of Zebra fame, the rock
I
group
thought you were going to say
Zebra.
Randy Jackson of. He
No.
probably hears us a lot.
Tell me what
American
you
Idol.
want, and I think they came from New Orleans. I used to listen to him on Long Island.
Zebra had quite a following in the 80s.
Yeah,
I remember.
Yeah. The bar scene, at least here in New York. Anyway.
Yeah.
All right, so Randy's got a question for us here, or for you anyway. He says he lost Aaron Rodgers, and now he's in the awkward position of playing Scott Tolzien or Jason Campbell in a very deep league. If I beat this guy head-to-head, he's in the playoff. If he loses, he's out. So he's got an important decision to make. So it's all riding on you, not that there's any pressure here.
Me, it's easy. It's Tolzien. He faces the pass defense that allows the third most
So you're
points
picking
to
a guy who's played in
quarterback.
2 games since the guy's like a 15-year veteran.
The other guy's a journeyman quarterback, though. It's Tolzien's not afraid to throw downfield.
I happen to like Tolzien.
He'll help you. Look, I'm not crazy about Tolzien.
I just think it's mistakes you
You're
gotta
right,
guard
though. You're right, though. The guy's played a game and a half, and a quarterback like that can hit the wall at any time. But there's no upside for Campbell. There's at least some statistical upside with Tolzien. The fact that he's
also got the system.
not afraid to throw downfield.
Right, yeah.
Number one, he's fearless throwing downfield, and number two, the matchup.
Yeah, and I think he's got the system and some support around him. Again, to me, it's just
He
the
loves throwing
turnovers.
to Jericho. Yeah.
But other than that, he showed already in the game and a half that
he's going to turn the ball over, but it's like Jason Campbell. There's not much of a statistical ceiling.
Okay. All right, Randy. Hope that helps you. Let's move on to the next celebrity question.
By the way, before we go on, Randy is not the only 80s rocker that plays fantasy football. Tie Me Down of Faster Pussycat, Steve West of Danger Danger.
probably all play.
I wonder if they're all in the same league.
I don't know about
Yeah.
that. I mean, there's like 50 zillion 80s rockers left here. I've been trying to get us some current celebrities, some people. I tried that with the Miley Cyrus thing, and I got her father. It didn't work out. But.
I'll get you some.
All right. Eddie Payton. Eddie
Yes.
Payton?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Famous brother?
Yes.
Walter?
Yes.
Eddie had a cup of coffee in the NFL. And mostly punt returner, I think. I looked up his stats.
Isn't Eddie Payton his son?
No. Brother.
I'm thinking of Jarrett.
Yeah.
Right? I'm thinking of Jarrett
Brother.
Payton.
No, he played mostly with the Vikings as a punt returner.
Didn't Jarrett play in the NFL for a while?
I know he played at the University of Miami.
Yeah.
I don't know if
I
he
can't remember
played
off
in
the top of my head.
But Eddie played with the Vikings mostly. And
Yes.
I think the Cleveland Browns as well. I think he
You
had
know what? You should tell this to
15
Chris
yards
Dolan,
in his career. Rushing, 15 yards.
You know the return
Yeah,
I
and him
remember?
and his brother, and they're the most ever.
Remember the return I remember the most from the Vikings was Darren Nelson. He's about as big as this coffee mug.
Yep. Well, Eddie wants to know if you like Frank Gore or Zach Stacy this week.
That's a close one. Both of them have really good matchups.
He's clearly not playing in Warren's league.
But Zach's, if he is, he's in second place. It's Zach Stacy against that Bears run defense, which is just awful and shows no sign of getting better. I got to go with Zach Stacy.
Zach Stacy.
Yeah. And don't do it, okay?
What?
Just
No.
don't take it.
You know that one guy, the guy from San Francisco is going to write in again that you're dissing Gore.
No, not
But
that.
you know that he did that And then and then you were on the Gore bandwagon after that for a while.
Well, Gore earned it. It's not
He
about,
did.
what that guy said.
No, Gore is a better fantasy running back than Zach Stacy, higher ranked, correct?
No, not in my lineup ranks
No.
this week.
Okay.
Zach Stacy's looked very good since taking over the starting job, and I love his matchup.
Okay, fair enough. All right, Eddie, good luck with that. We have Adam Duritz from the Counting Crows, the lead singer.
Yes.
You know who they are?
Oh, of course I know who they are.
Okay, all right.
In fact, my good friend, Tristan Cockcroft of ESPN,
Yeah.
one of my oldest friends in the big fantasy business, huge Counting Crows fan. Huge.
All right.
Yes.
That's interesting. What does Adam want to know? Adam says he has both tight ends in the New England-Denver game. Can only play one.
Well, we have to see what's going to happen with Julius
gonna do?
Thomas here, but there's no way you bench Rob Gronkowski. Period.
How do you bench Thomas?
You can't bench. You bench him if you have Gronkowski. Gronkowski's the best, arguably the best tight end in all of fantasy football.
I'd like to see who has in his flex position, though.
If you
Could it
play,
be better than Thomas?
If you can play, I was going to say, if you can play one of the flex, you might want to do it, but we have to see how Thomas works out with the knee injury. You don't bench Rob Gronkowski, period.
It's not possible that they can be without Thomas and Welker. Well,
Welker's looking better to play.
Okay.
Yeah.
That would be interesting.
And he plays against his former team, too.
So, Andy, I don't know what your roster looks like, but maybe you can move him to your flex position. He's got. I would
the
imagine.
trade deadline may have passed, and at this point, if you have both on your roster, it's probably a thing where he tried to trade him and he just couldn't find the right deal.
Unless he's playing in Warren Moon's league,
No.
that's probably his best guy to put in the
Warren-
flex position.
If he was playing in Warren Moon's league, Warren Moon would have Rob Gronkowski and Jimmy Graham. That's got to be a salary cap league.
All right. Let's move on. We got some questions from the common folk here.
Why do you call them common folk?
What's the
These
difference?
people are
Why
part of the
someone
Roto
just-
X Nation. They make us what we are.
I haven't heard any problems from the viewers here.
I got a problem.
All right.
You're important. He doesn't think
I didn't say you
do.
weren't important.
Yeah.
At M. Greenfield. All right, he says, I'm hearing lots of positive things about Scott Tolzien. You mentioned him before. This week in his matchup against the Vikings, would you hesitate to play him as a quarterback 2?
As a quarterback, too, in a two-quarterback league, I don't think there's any reason why you shouldn't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Fair enough. Let's move on. There you go. M. From at Mary Alice. The lady's liking you again. I'm nervous about Antonio Brown going up against Joe Hayden.
I've heard it a lot this week.
Would you sit Brown in favor of Ruben Sandwich?
No. Look, Antonio Brown's
Ruben
facing...
Randall's pretty decent.
Look, it's a tough matchup. I realize that, but Antonio Brown's also a very good receiver, and something's got to give here. And it's not
The
necessarily.
Cowboys can't defend the end zone against the pass. They stink.
Are you talking about the Cowboys? We're talking about the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, but
defensive
Ruben
back.
Randall's probably going to have a
It's
pretty
not
day.
just about the matchup. It's about the quality of the player. In order to bench Antonio Brown, you have to have somebody who's capable of providing that consistent production. Somebody who's close in value to bet. Ruben Randall is nowhere near Antonio Brown in terms of potential consistent production. It's not just about the matchup. It's about the quality of the player, too. I can't bench Antonio Brown for Ruben Randall.
Okay, there you have it, Mary. From the King.
Mary, why you bugging?
At Fireman says, I can't possibly see playing Ray Rice against the Jets defense.
I see that.
My other running backs are Chris Ivory, and Trent Richardson. Should I
Can't play Richardson.
He's. I think he just wants confirmation here. It says I should be playing Ivory, right?
I'm okay with going with Ivory. I mean,
Of
I don't
those
think
three?
I don't think either running back's gonna have a good game. You know,
Well, it's the
definitely
least of the
using
evils here.
both of them over Richardson. To me, Ivory's probably the least of the evils. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right, Fireman. There you go. At Scott Sims wants to know which running back do you like best in the Titans-Raiders game, CJ 2K or Rashad Jennings?
Chris Johnson's got more upside. Although I like the way Rashad Jennings
He's
is
been running well lately.
Yeah, and the Titans allow a lot of fantasy points to opposing running backs. I believe they're like 6th worst against opposing running backs. I think that's the number. But Chris Johnson has too much upside. I think I got to go with Chris Johnson.
Okay, there it is. Scott, there you go. A couple more questions here. We have at Better You Than Me. That's cute. How about that? Who's the better choice for my last wide receiver spot in Week 12? Santonio Holmes or Tyquan Underwood? He's clearly not playing in in Warren Moon's
I
league.
like Taekwon Underwood as a sleeper this week because I really think the Lions are going to try to, double team Vincent Jackson. I think Santonio Holmes is a little bit of a tougher matchup. Taekwon Underwood's one of my top sleepers for this week. I'm actually going to say be cute and go with Taekwon Underwood this week. I think he catches a touchdown pass.
You think somebody might want to finally double team Vincent Jackson? They throw it to him like 15 times a game. It's about time somebody try that.
It makes defensive sense because you're going to okay, if you're going to beat us with Taekwon Underwood.
Yeah. Okay. There you go. Better you than me. That's your answer there. All right. At Nelson Fowler says, I have Jordan Reed. Do I gamble and go with him or play Rob Hausler, which is my best available option at this point?
One of my hard and fast fantasy rules is when in doubt, you always go with the healthy player. If Jordan Reed late in the week, he doesn't practice, doesn't look like he's going to play, don't chance it. Go with the healthy guy.
Right. Now, so for those of you who are really not up to date on what he's talking about, Jordan Reed has a concussion, but but the problem is he's playing on Monday night, and you might not find out if he's going to be in the lineup.
You got to play it safe and go with Hausler.
Right?
You got to play it safe. You'll know by Saturday. If he doesn't practice on Saturday, you go with Hausler.
Okay, you know by Saturday. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. At Sweet Brandy Girl, one of our avid followers, she writes me every week.
I wonder if these are like really ladies or just like I've had this in live chat.
I've seen a picture.
Let me finish.
Cute.
Let me finish. It's these are guys, but they put their picture and they write their name because they think they got a better chance of getting their question answered.
I'm not going to read her last name out on the air, but she's emailed me. I know who she is.
Okay.
Very sweet young girl.
Yes. Very sweet guy with a
No. Okay, now cut that out. And look at this. She agrees with you too. She's making nice here. She says, I have to agree with the king that people not only want to hear your best advice, but they want to know how and why you came to the conclusion. Because I said to them, you just wanted yes or no.
Nice guy,
and she's sticking up for you.
This nice guy posing as a girl agrees with me that you just can't give yes and no answers. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Randy.
Brian.
With my mighty Seattle D on bye, who should I play as a replacement, she wants to know. And she's even playing Seattle for her. This is awful. Randy, I apologize.
Brian, it's okay. Let's go.
Who should we put as the replacement for her?
Well, who's available? Did she give me any
choices? You know what? I'll tell you. Let's move on to the next question, who's from at Andrew Sids, and says, what defense do you like best this week? Let's answer it that way.
Well, just overall, the Kansas City Chiefs and the Carolina Panthers. But then, all right, I'm just going to throw out a few defenses that might be available that you can possibly strike.
Go for it.
Okay, the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game against the Cleveland Browns. The Houston Texans. Last week they burned you, but this week they face the Jaguars. That's another one that's out there that you might be able to use. You can see a full list on RotoExperts.com in my lineup ranks, but those two are available in a lot of leagues. I doubt Baltimore is available, but they're a great play this week.
All right, fantastic. And Brandy, again, my sincere apologies for
it's okay, Brian.
The queen over there.
So. Brian, it's cool.
Okay, let's move on to the games that takes care of the question portion of the show. Not too soon. Let's move on to this.
You're real gullible. Somebody could just put a picture and a woman's name, and you're like, I want to answer the question.
All right, enough. Move on. The Steelers at the Browns. What do we got going there? Who do you like? Who do you don't like? I know you like Antonio Brown.
It's not like Antonio Brown's like top 5, though. Don't say I like him. I picked him over another guy necessarily. I think he may have an okay game. I don't think Le'Veon Bell's... I don't think either team's going to have an outstanding offensive day. They're going to home... Divisional games. You saw it on Thursday night. It's a good example. A lot of people expected the Saints to light up the Falcons. They only scored 30 points combined when a lot of people thought that the Saints were going to score 30 points alone by themselves. There's going to be a low-scoring, rivalry, hard-fought game. I don't think you're going to see a lot of points on each side. You do start Antonio Brown. You can start Le'Veon Bell as a flex. This is not a week to start Jericho catch a TD. I don't think he gets in the end zone. Roethlisberger's not an outstanding play.
You wouldn't have thought Cotchery would have gotten the end zone on any week, though.
No. I just don't think he's getting in this week. You only like him because he's an ex-Jet, but that's beside the point.
I never heard you mention the man's name all year.
I'm mentioning it now.
As far as don't play him, I never heard you recommend him.
I never recommended him. It's been a bit of a surprise, yes, but I don't think he gets in the end
zone
this
that.
week. Admit what?
That it was a surprise.
That what was a surprise?
You admit it.
That what was a surprise?
Cotchery.
Yeah, it's a surprise.
Okay.
Nobody expected him to have this many touchdowns.
Particularly you.
You certainly didn't predict it.
No, I didn't. But I wasn't
you
waxing poetically about him either.
I'm not waxing poetically about him either. I just had to bench him. What are you talking about?
If you
Can
bench
you
him-
let me finish analyzing the game?
He had to be in if you're benching him.
You're interrupting the flow. People want this information.
Go ahead.
You're just mad at me because I called you out on Brian.
I feel bad for the woman.
But anyway, Chris Oingo,
awful.
like Cha-Cha calls him, Chris Oingo Boingo, I wouldn't play him. But Josh Gordon against a bad pass defense might get double teamed, but can still catch a touchdown. I think there's a week where Jason Campbell, though, does rediscover Jordan Cameron for a touchdown.
Okay. It was interesting last night with Cameron Jordan making the tackles last night.
What's the
Jordan
next?
Cameron Jordan. I don't know.
They weren't playing each other. What's interesting about it?
I thought it was interesting. All right. Buccaneers at the Lions.
Buccaneers are at the Lions. People want to know, is Bobby Rainey for real? I think this week you're going to see a strong defensive line that's going to prevent Bobby Rainey from breaking a lot of holes. But Mike Lennon will get him the ball as a receiver, so he'll have decent numbers. He'll be a good flex play. I think the Lions try to load up against the run and say, come on, Mike Lennon, beat us. We're also going to double team Vincent Jackson. You don't bench Vincent Jackson. He's too good. He might even be able to bust a double team. But Glennon's a decent alternative if you have a Russell Wilson or a Nick Foles out. And maybe Scott Tolzien isn't available. You go with Mike Glennon. I think he's going to have a decent day. Interesting on the other side of the ball. This is the first time I haven't heard this year. Do you bench that guy because he faces Darrelle Revis? Because nobody is benching Calvin Johnson.
Wasn't it odd, though, he didn't catch a ball in the second half last year? What the hell was that last week? How come they didn't throw him the ball?
Doesn't matter. The full numbers were good. But you Matthew Stafford, top 3 fantasy quarterback. Calvin Johnson, he has a great shot at getting the end zone. Nate Burleson comes back this week. Could be an interesting play, and you continue to roll Reggie Bush out there.
Yeah, they announced definitely that he will be back.
This is too powerful of an offense for Tampa Bay to contain it, especially with Burleson back. Gives them even more diversity.
Yeah, I don't like the Tampa running game at all this week, and I do like the passing game only because
I like Rainey as a
have to,
flex.
Play keeper. So,
I like Rainey as a flex.
Okay. Vikings at Scott Tolzien and the Packers.
This is going to be an interesting game in terms of, I believe, a certain wide receiver is on the verge of a breakout.
Who would that be?
I watched Cordarrelle Patterson on film, and you don't see it in the numbers, but he is challenging defensive backs with his side speed combination.
How'd that work out last week? You thought he was going to break out last week?
I didn't say he was going to break out last week. He was playing the Seahawks. Do you listen to this
I've
show?
heard you say this before.
No, you said it 3 weeks ago, and it didn't happen.
No, I just said he was going to
Why would I say Cordarrelle Patterson's going to break out
don't know.
against one of the best secondaries in the NFL?
I don't know.
Ugh, if you're going to come at me with something, be accurate, will you? Anyhow, Cordarrelle Patterson, it's not in the numbers. Okay, you watch the film, you can see that he's challenging defensive backs downfield. They're struggling to keep up with him. This is the week that he breaks out. I think Cordarrelle Patterson has a big game this week and a great play on sites like DraftKings and DraftStreet and FanDuel. I like Cordarrelle Patterson this week. Hard to bench Adrian Peterson unless your other option is Jamal Charles, which I don't think it is. I don't know how much I believe Warren Moon here as much as I love the guy. For the Packers, start Tolzien if you got Russell Wilson or Nick Foles on a bye. He loves Jared Boykin. I don't think you use James Jones until Aaron Rodgers comes back. Eddie Lacy, I think he gets in the end zone.
Okay. Cordarrelle Patterson.
Bust out week for Cordarrelle Patterson.
Not doing nothing. He's got to go get those dreadlocks clipped, or else he's going to get him ripped off like the other guy in Arizona did last week.
Andre Ellington.
Yeah. And he's not
you're
doing
supposed to be a fantasy expert, and you like the other guy.
He's not doing anything either after everybody hopped on his bandwagon.
Well, it's one off week. Not everybody.
He only had one on week, really.
No, he had more than one on week.
All right, Chargers at the Chiefs. You think the Chiefs are going to rebound here? So
I do, but I caution. Divisional game, going to be low scoring, not a lot of offense. Not Dwayne Bowe maybe gets in the end zone because the Chargers' pass defense looks so bad. But still, when divisional games, opponents know each other. You look at Thursday night, the New Orleans Saints only scored 17 points against the Atlanta Falcons when it looked like a good matchup on paper. So I try to avoid Dwayne Bowe if I could. The only guy from Kansas City I would play is Jamal Charles. Phillip Rivers, not a good play this week, I don't think. I think Keenan Allen gives you pretty good PPR numbers, though, because that's a guy he has to go to. Danny Woodhead has an okay game. I wouldn't use Ryan Matthews. This is a game I think is going to be very low scoring. This could be like 13-10.
Yeah, Rivers has certainly cooled off in many people's eyes.
Yes.
Okay. Chicago at St. Louis. In the Dome, we don't have to worry about weather. How about that?
Yeah. Oh, wow. That's an excellent weather.
Zach Stacy, you like Zach Stacy?
I already said I like Zach Stacy.
Bears can't stop a cold.
I think Tavon Austin has another good week. Scouts are saying the game is slowing down for Tavon Austin. He's absorbing the playbook. The game is slowing down for him. I like him. All he has to do is catch a 12-yard slant, and he's gone against this Bears defense. Josh McCown, decent, not outstanding day. That's a really good defensive line that's going to hit him a lot. You don't bench Matt Forte. Brandon Marshall must start. Alshon Jeffrey is a top 10 fantasy wide receiver right now. Wide receiver 1 must start every single week. Martellus Bennett is the one that gets left out of the fun.
Okay, well, you heard that there from the King. Got to start him. Let's move on to the Carolina Panthers at the Miami Fish.
You know the viewers don't like when you do that.
There's one viewer.
He doesn't like when you do it. He's important. You may call him common folk, but he's important.
I haven't heard from him since.
Okay? I always talk about when guys face their former teams here. Revenge factor for a sleeper play. Ted Ginn Jr. against the Miami Dolphins, who drafted him and got rid of him. I think Ted Ginn Jr., at least catches a deep pass, and he's a good play. The Dolphins don't allow passing touchdowns.
That was 2 teams ago. He went to San Francisco in between.
That doesn't matter. You think the guy doesn't remember it?
I don't know what he remembers.
He remembers they drafted him high and they gave up on him. Every time he's going to see a Dolphins uniform, he's going to want to burn him. Cam Newton, I think, will have an okay day. The Dolphins, they can be kind of tough down there in Miami when they play a day game. The heat gives them an actual home field advantage. I wonder if Cam Newton's going to have to pace himself in the heat there. Steve Smith, kind of a mediocre fantasy wide receiver. For the Dolphins, Ryan Tannehill against that defense. Oh boy, that's not going to be pretty. That is certainly not going to be pretty. Mike Wallace has a hamstring problem. I don't know if I'm playing a single Dolphin this week. Certainly
not playing Lamar Miller.
No.
Okay.
Not against that defense, no.
All right.
I can't find any Dolphin that I'd like to start this week. In that entire game, I might only want to use Cam Newton and Ted Ginn Jr.
What if they wore those bright orange uniforms? Would that change your opinion or anything?
No.
Nothing. All right.
No.
My New York Jets at the Baltimore Ravens.
Interesting dichotomy between the two franchises here. One that's only been around for a little while and won 2 Super Bowls, and another that's been around since the 1960s and maybe one of the most least successful franchises in the entire league. But I digress. I think Torrey Smith, might be able to burn the Jets deep here. He's a good start. Maybe Dallas Clark catches a few passes over the middle if you're desperate. But Ray Rice had some major holes blown open for him against Chicago Bears last week. Not going to see that against the Jets this week. Not in my top 20 running backs this week on RotoExperts.com. For the Jets, Chris Ivory may be able to bang out a score. Santonio Holmes, he's had a lot of battles with the Ravens over the years. This might hype him up a little bit. Holmes might be a decent bye-week play. But I think that's about it. The Ravens
throw him the ball?
The Ravens are terrific defense. Look, if Geno Smith throws 4 picks and 1 touchdown, that touchdown is going to Santonio Holmes. You can't always look at the quarterback and say, okay, because the quarterback is bad, the receiver's going to have a bad day. Even a bad quarterback completes passes to somebody.
I don't know about who's
1 touchdown, 3 interceptions.
They may have to stick him in the Wildcat if they want him to score. I don't know how that's going to work out. All right, let's move on. The Jacksonville Jaguars at the Houston Texans. The Case Keenum led Houston Texans.
Yes, he's going to keep the job.
Well, this is what I heard. I heard that he pulled him basically because he wanted to pick up the pace and he didn't feel comfortable having
the pace with Max
running
can't do it.
Well, if he put the ball in the end zone in the last moment, everybody would have had a party.
But it didn't happen.
No, it didn't happen.
It didn't happen.
So he's going back to the Keenum man. So.
Yes, he's going back to Keenum. I think Keenum's going to seize the opportunity. I think natural trend thinking would dictate, okay, they're mad, they're ticked off, they're going to take it out on the Jaguars. I don't think Houston's good enough to take anything out on anybody, but I think Keenum's a good start. I think Andre Johnson is the top one of wide receivers of the week. I think Ben Tate has a terrific game, but Jacksonville's not going to roll over and die either. Cecil Shorts was very aggravated after last week's game, going to want the ball. He's going to get the ball, and I think Maurice Jones-Drew gets in the end zone again. Watching the Jaguars, though, It's very, very painful because you think Kansas City doesn't throw downfield? I've never seen as many teams throw screen passes over and over and over as the Jacksonville Jaguars.
It is what it is. I don't know. It is what it is. Well, listen, Cecil Schwartz
Expert analysis. It is what it is.
He's had a bazillion targets this year. He can't complain. I mean, one
he
time
wasn't getting targeted last week.
Yeah, one time.
That's what wide receivers do. They complain.
Yeah, I mean, that's selfish. Selfish.
Wide receivers are generally selfish.
Selfish.
Yes.
All right. The Indianapolis Colts at the Arizona Cardinals.
You know, the Cardinals, they can be aggressive on defense, but they can also be burned. I like Andrew Luck for maybe like a 3-touchdown, 2-interception type of day. Maybe Donald Brown with a few long runs. I think T.Y. Hilton faces Patrick Peterson this week, and that might be tough for him. So you're going to see Luck go to some other targets. You know,
He's going to Trent Richardson.
No. You may see him go to guys like Levon Brazil. You may see him go to his tight end, Kobe Fleener. It'd be interesting to see if Levon Brazil gets more involved in the flow of the offense this week. That's something interesting to watch. I don't trust Carson Palmer 2 weeks in a row, but I'll still start Larry Fitzgerald. Michael Floyd can be up and down. I think Andre Ellington can break a long run against this defense.
I'll say this about Kobe Fleener. He's kind of on my do not touch list, only because he dropped so many balls.
But you don't lose points for that in fantasy.
However, it's just I just got so frustrated with him. However,
when he does catch it, he does something.
Yeah, the Arizona Cardinals are awful covering the tight end, so potentially he can have a big week.
Yes, and Robert Hausler, he's coming along. He's finally coming along.
I think health had a lot to do. He had some health problems there. All right, the Tennessee Titans at the Oakland Raiders, the McGloin-led Oakland Raiders.
I don't know if McGloin can do this 2 weeks in a row. Tennessee's got a very good secondary. The only Raider that I would be playing is Rashad Jennings, who's still going to have to work very hard for his yardage. Chris Johnson may rip off a long run or two here. Kendall Wright should have some decent numbers. And I like Delaney Walker as a start again.
I do too.
If there's not a McGloin, if there's not a Glennon, don't hesitate to use Ryan Fitzpatrick.
I think Delaney Walker should be a very interesting play. Fitzpatrick likes throwing to Delaney Walker.
Yes.
Like the tight end.
Just like in Buffalo, he liked throwing to Scott Chandler.
Yeah. Especially in the PPR league.
Yeah.
He'd be a decent play this week. I would play him over maybe some of the other people you might think you shouldn't. Dallas at the Giants. I know we talked about on the Sirius program whether this is going to be a big shootout or not. People have different opinions. What do you?
I don't think you can ever assume in a divisional game that you just look at the defensive rankings or the points against and assume it's going to be a shootout. These two teams know each other very well. Dallas's pass defense has looked awful, but they've had a week off to retool, and that I think they're going to come in prepared defensively. I'm not starting Eli Manning. I don't care what
He's
the
not
matchup
due?
is. No, it's not baseball. He's
Is
not
Hicks due?
He's not due. Hicks?
Nix.
Aaron Hicks?
Nix.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the center fielder from the Twins. Hakeem Nicks can't abuse him no matter who he faces. Victor Cruz, love him,
He's
top
facing
5
the Pop
star.
Warner team. Can't use him.
The running backs, I think Andre Brown has a very good day. Brandon Jacobs get in the end zone. On the other side of the ball, I can't bench Tony Romo. Des Bryant says they're working with ways to get him the ball and split the double teams. It's going to be very interesting. Terrence Williams might get in the end zone, and DeMarco Murray will have a decent day.
All right, so that's Dallas and New York, and we'll move on to Denver
New Jersey
at New England, which is a very interesting game this week. Should be a lot of offense there.
Yes, there should. From the Denver side, Peyton Manning's Peyton Manning, Demaryius Thomas, an elite
Peyton Manning is
wide
Peyton
receiver.
Manning.
Yeah.
Really?
That's all you need to know. If he's there,
And,
he's
and you're in the Hall of
touchdowns.
Fame with that.
Yes.
And I can't get in.
No.
All right.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
because
Continue.
you take questions from Brian and they think
Don't
that
say-
Barbara
that's
and
not nice.
You'll never get in the Hall of
Brandy,
Fame predicting
I am
Matt
sorry,
Ryan and Roddy
Brandy.
White at the same time.
Brandy, I will give you a personal apology after
It's
the show.
okay, Brian.
Apologies.
Brian, it's cool. But Peyton Manning's Peyton Manning. You throw him out there, you get the fantasy points. Demaryius Thomas is elite. Wes Welker faces his former team. You got to love that. Eric Decker's probably the third in the pecking order. We've seen that. If Julius Thomas is not able to play, sleeper alert. Joel Dreesen. Joel Dreesen is maybe a guy that you want to roll out there if Julius Thomas can't play. No Sean Moreno still getting yardage, but Monty Ball stealing touchdowns. That's not a good thing. Tom Brady might have his best game of the season this year. I think Aaron Dobson is a really, really good value play. People say, are you worried about Ridley with Vereen there? No, they play different roles. Ridley runs on the inside. Vereen is a pass-catching back. The only thing you have to worry about with Ridley, if he keeps fumbling, you're going to see more of LeGarrette Blount.
Yeah. He ruined a nice day for himself last week. Mm-hmm. I mean, he got a touchdown at the end there, but still. Would expect a high-scoring game here, no?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
These teams are not divisional rivals of familiarity either, so.
Yeah, the whole Brady and Manning thing is the ratings should be off the charts. I think in prime time. All right, and it should be 26 degrees and blustery for the weather report.
Blustery.
Yeah. How about that?
Yeah, that's good. You're not getting in the Hall of Fame with that.
Well, try. In the Monday night game, the San Francisco 49ers, my 49ers.
What do you mean you're 49?
I'm adapting them midway through.
You're a Jet fan.
I
you're
need
a Jet
team.
fan. You're a Jet fan.
Since
you are a Jet fan,
and that is all you are. Division, and I'm not taking the Rams.
You are a Jet fan, and that is all you are. I will never regard you as a San Francisco fan.
My San Francisco 49ers.
They're not your San Francisco 49ers.
Against the Redskins.
Oh, well, I think you have to like Colin Kaepernick this week, and I'll tell you why. Because, the 49ers, all of a sudden, they're hearing whispers that their playoff hopes may be dying. They need this game. They're facing a bad... They're 6-4.
They're in.
They're not a lot.
It's got to prime up.
If they lose this week, they are not a lot.
They are not losing to the Redskins team from Washington.
You don't know. This is Monday Night Football. Anything can happen when you get under the lights. But Colin Kaepernick's going to have a good game because he has to have a good game this week to keep those playoff hopes alive. I think Anquan Boldin has a good game. Vernon Davis is a must-start. Frank Gore might score more than once. But you know what, though? RG3 is going to come to play because all this negative talk about him, he's going to slug it out with Kaepernick on Monday Night Football. I think RG3 has a decent night. Pierre Garçon will be okay, and Alfred Morris gets in the end zone on Monday Night Football. I think this is going to be more of an offensive slugfest than people think.
Interesting. Yeah. How about all those people who went out and got Anquan Boldin after week 1 thinking that he was going to... That's kind of crazy. All right, so your biggest sleeper for this week is who?
Cordarrelle Patterson.
Guy with the dreadlocks, and he runs. He's got no hands. He's like, to me, he's Ted Ginn. He's just bigger.
No, he's the next Josh Gordon.
Really?
Yeah. Ted Ginn is not a good NFL receiver. He does
not. He's a
how can you compare him to Ted?
Because he runs like the wind.
No, Cordarrelle Patterson's much bigger, much stronger, and much more talented.
Thanks for listening to the program. I said that.
But how can you compare those two?
Because neither one of them can catch the ball.
But that's the only thing, though. Cordarrelle Patterson
is
so much bigger, so much stronger, runs better routes, and has every other receiver qualification over Ted Ginn.
The Jets got a guy on that team who looks and acts like he's Megatron, except he doesn't. I'm not going to go into bringing a bad one. I forget it.
Stephen Hill. Well, he's a young kid. He's too young.
All right. Let's. That's all for today's show. How about that? Before we go and insult anybody else, I'd like to thank Apollo Anton Ono, who you learned today. He's a skater, right? Yeah. Warren Moon, thank you, Hall of Famer Warren Moon. Randy Jackson from Zebra, Eddie Payton, and Adam Duritz. And for my fellow Hall of Famer, since I probably should be in.
You don't have 10 years in the industry yet.
You keep overrating this 10 years stuff. Anyway,
you see this, Brian?
From the entire RotoExperts crew, and a big apologies to you, Brandy, first of all.
Brian.
We will see you next week.
Now's the time to work and strain at a sport that tests the spirit and challenges the brain.
Come on, let's go. Yeah, I'd like to have 75 degrees and sunny all the time too, but that's not football.
Do you fear the force of the wind, the slash of the rain?
We're gonna play it through light and rain.
Go face them and fight them. Be savage again.